Hi, fifth graders. Welcome to our third lesson on quadrilaterals. I would like for you to take out the notes that you took last week. Mine are kind of typed up. Yours look a little bit like this with some pictures at the bottom. If you haven't done this lesson from last week, I'd like for you to stop the recording right now and go back and watch the recording. Once you find those, you can either do one of two things. You can either turn to page 388 in your textbook if you have it. If you don't have your textbook home, what I would like for you to do is to take out a piece of paper and kind of try to make this chart with us. You don't have to do the squares like we have, but maybe write the words in bold like quadrilateral here and make the chart with us. Now you remember from last week that a quadrilateral is a four-sided figure. Quad means four, lateral means side. Like if you throw a lateral pass in football, you throw it to the side. So in that box, I would like for you to draw a quadrilateral. Any kind, as long as it has four sides. Mine is kind of an unusual one, looks a little bit like an arrow. Now in the whole world of quadrilaterals, we have some special kinds of quadrilaterals. One of them is a trapezoid, and another one is a parallelogram. So kind of draw an arrow off of or draw lines off of your quadrilateral. And we're going to go to parallelograms first. And in your notes, you notice that it says a parallelogram is a quadrilateral with, and you probably have something that says opposite sides parallel. And I'm going to show you the symbol for parallel. It looks like a set of parallel lines. So a parallelogram, opposite sides parallel. Those two sides are going to be parallel, and then these two sides are parallel. And this side looks like it's the same length as that side, and that side is the same length as that side. So the opposite sides are not only parallel, but they're also the same measurement. And then I believe we also talked about the angles. The opposite angles are also the same measurement. Over here, a trapezoid is another kind of quadrilateral, and it's a little bit like a parallelogram, only it has one set or one pair of parallel lines, parallel sides. So I'm going to draw one like this. So these sides are parallel, and these two sides are not. So it has one set of parallel sides. Another way you could draw it is like this. This side is parallel to this side, only in this particular case, we have two right angles. So one set of parallel sides, both sets of sides are parallel. Now moving on, we also have special parallelograms. So quadrilaterals, parallelograms, there's two names for two special kinds of parallelograms. First one is a rectangle, and I know you're really familiar with rectangles. Just go ahead and draw a rectangle. And if you compare those two, it's a parallelogram because the opposite sides are parallel, but it has four right angles. Sorry, I'm not sure why this is showing up. It has four right angles. That's the abbreviation for an angle. And if you want to show that, make a little box in the corner that shows that those are 90-degree angles. Like the parallelogram, the opposite sides are parallel and congruent, and those two sides, that side's congruent to that side. Congruent means same measurement. The rhombus is the one that is hardest for kids to remember. A rhombus is a parallelogram, but it has congruent or equal sides. And I'm going to show you the symbol for congruent. It starts out with an equal sign, and then there's a little curly Q on the top like that. So congruent. So a parallelogram has congruent sides. So all of these sides are the same length. They're congruent. Okay. All right, hopefully you're drawing these with me. Now, there are some special rectangles. So a square is a special rectangle. Draw a square in your box there. And it's like a rectangle in that it has right angles, right? It's different from this other shape in that all the sides are the same. So a square is a rectangle with congruent or equal sides. The sides are the same length. Over here, a square is also a rhombus. And it's different from this picture up here in that it has 90-degree angles. So right angles are 90-degree angles. All right, one last trick question here. Explain why all squares are rhombuses, but not all rhombuses are squares. Well, a square is a kind of rhombus because it has opposite sides equal and opposite sides parallel. But a rhombus doesn't have to have 90-degree angles. A square does. So the difference is in the measurement of the angles. All right, so I've actually gone backwards in our textbook to page 387. If you don't have your textbook, that's okay. Again, you're going to need a pencil and paper. All right, so we're going to draw some pictures to find out a little bit more about quadrilaterals. So these are statements, and we have to decide if they're true or false. And if the statement is false, we have to sketch a counterexample. So we're going to make a picture that shows why it's false. Okay, so here's the first one. All quadrilaterals have at least one pair of parallel sides. So I want you to think about that. Is there a quadrilateral that doesn't have parallel sides? So try and draw that. I would suggest pausing right now and try to draw it. All right, that statement is actually false. And I'll give you an example of something that you could have drawn for that one. You might have come up with something different, but that example I showed before, like this, okay, that's an example of something that it has four sides, but there aren't any parallel sides there. Let's go on to number 2. All squares have a pair of perpendicular sides. Okay, well, draw your picture of a square. Is there a way you could draw that and not have 90-degree angles? No. So that one is true. Number 3, a rhombus must have an acute angle. Now this is really not a very fair question. We really haven't talked about angles very much, but if you remember from what you learned in 3rd grade or 4th grade, an acute angle is an angle that's less than 90 degrees. So I'm going to draw a rhombus. You draw a rhombus too. And let's take a look at this. I don't think you can, this is an acute angle right here, and that's an acute angle right there. I think that's true. I don't know how you could draw that without doing that. So you could do a 90-degree angle, but then you've got a square and there aren't any acute angles there. So we could try one with an obtuse angle, right? But we either end up with more than 4 sides or we end up with an acute angle. So that one is actually true. All right, all rectangles have opposite sides that are the same length. I'm going to draw a rectangle. And let's think about it. Are those opposite sides the same length? Yep. That one is also true. Number 5, all squares have opposite sides that are parallel. Well, we all know what a square looks like. Are those opposite sides parallel? Yep, that one is also true. All right, number 6, last one. A quadrilateral with a right angle must be a rectangle. Okay, so I'm going to draw a right angle. It's got to have 4 sides. So I'm going to try to draw this and not make it into a rectangle. So I'm going to go like that, and I'm going to go like that. So I have one right angle, but it's not a rectangle. Let's try that again. What if I did 2 right angles? Can I make this into 4 sides and not be a rectangle? Well, if I go like that, and I go like that, that is not a rectangle. That actually is a trapezoid. So this one is actually false. And here are some reasons why. All right. So I think you are ready to go on and do your questions for today in Schoology. Refer back to your notes. Refer back to these notes. Good luck.